Okay, this is Wednesday of week 1, and this is the 4 boys class. We're going to begin with some warm-up. We have Ms. Hay for the people and Mr. McNeil for defense. I am plaintiff attorney, Ms. Hay.
I am the witness.
I am attorney for defense, Mr. McNeil.
I am the court.
Begins in colloquy with Ms. Hay. On the record. People call Deputy James Ferdinand.
Raise your right hand. You do solemnly swear that the testimony you may give in the cause now pending before this court shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help you God.
I do.
Would you please be seated, sir? State and spell your first and last names for the record.
James Ferdinand, Jamesferdinand.
Thank you very much, sir.
Deputy Ferdinand, what is your occupation?
Deputy with the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department.
To what station are you assigned?
Industry.
How long have you been a sheriff?
10 years.
Were you assigned to the industry station on October 24th of last year?
Yes, I was.
And were you on duty that evening?
Yes, I was.
Did you go to the location of a traffic collision on Hacienda Boulevard?
Yes, I did.
Approximately what time did you get there?
I don't recall the time we got that call, but it probably was approximately 5 minutes after we got the call.
Do you recall what time you were there?
Not offhand, no.
When you got there, who did you go with?
My partner, Deputy Wright.
Now, when you got to the scene, what was the very first thing that you did?
I got out and started directing traffic.
What vehicles did you observe as apparently being involved in the traffic collision?
There appeared to be a truck and a van.
And when you say truck, do you remember the makes of the vehicles?
I believe the van was a Chevy and the truck could have been a Dodge or a Chevy.
Did you write a report of the accident?
Yes, I did.
Well, when you wrote the report, was it an accurate reflection of the incident as you made your observations?
I wrote a manslaughter report. I did not write a traffic collision report.
Did you write a complaint report?
Yes, I did.
And you do not have an accurate reflection of the vehicles involved in this matter?
Not offhand, no.
Would it refresh your recollection to look at the report that you wrote?
Yes, it would.
I'm showing you a report. Does it refresh your recollection as to the vehicles?
Yes, it does.
Now, what were the vehicles involved?
One was a brown Dodge and the other was a white Chevy truck.
When you got to the scene, how did you approach? Northbound or southbound?
Southbound.
So you came facing the opposite direction from the vehicles there?
That's correct.
What did you do as far as waiting?
I parked on the west side of the same street across from the traffic collision.
Okay, what was the first thing that you did?
I started directing traffic around the accident.
Did you go and examine the van and the truck?
A little later I did, yes.
And did you make observations as to where they were on the roadway?
Yes, I did.
Directing your attention to the truck, did you observe where the truck was in relation to the white fog line painted on the surface of the roadway?
Yes, I did.
Where was the truck in relation to that line?
The truck was parked east of the fog line.
Was the entire vehicle within the shoulder area to the east of the fog line?
To the best of my recollection, yes, it was.
And where was the van in relation to the truck?
The van was parked in front of the truck and at an approximate 45-degree angle, with the rear end of it sticking in the northbound lane of Hacienda Boulevard.
So the rear end of the van was sticking into the roadway, is that correct?
That's correct.
Did you observe any kind of skid marks on the roadway when you were there?
Yes, I did.
Did you see any debris on the roadway?
Yes, I did.
What debris did you notice?
Pieces of glass, plastic, and vehicle parts.
Over what distance were those pieces of debris scattered in relation to the truck?
Objection, vague and ambiguous, lack of foundation.
Overruled.
Approximately 10 to 15 feet at the rear of the truck.
When you say at the rear, I want to know where it was in relation to was it behind or beside?
It was behind and beside.
All right, and did you notice somebody being treated by paramedics when you got there?
Yes, I did. There was paramedics when I got there. He was lying face up at the rear of the truck. His feet were facing north and his head was facing south.
Was he completely within the fog line when they were treating him?
I believe he was lying on the fog line.
Showing you Exhibit 21. Do you recognize the officer in that?
Yes, I do.
And who is that?
That is my partner, Deputy Wright.
Looking at the white line that is shown on that photograph, if you would, do you see any skid marks on that line?
Yes, I do.
Does that appear to be one of the skids that you noticed on the night in question?
Yes, it is.
Did you examine the skid marks?
Not closely at that time, no.
Did you at any time?
Later on that evening,
And what observations did you make when you examined them?
that they did cross the fog line and we measured their length.
What did you measure in that?
I don't recall at this time.
Now, did you have any contact at the scene with anybody in the van?
Yes, I did.
Who was that?
That was the defendant.
That is Mrs. Wyatt sitting at the far end of this table.
That's correct.
Now, were you the first officer to have contact with her, if you recall?
I don't believe so.
Okay, when you had contact with her, where exactly was she?
She was seated behind the steering wheel, seated in the driver's seat of her van.
And did you speak to her?
No, I did not.
And did you observe Deputy Wright in contact with her?
Yes, I did.
What was your first contact with her?
When he placed her in the back seat of our patrol car.
When he did so, did you make any observations about her hands?
I believe she had a bandage on one of her hands.
Okay, was she in handcuffs when he put her in the vehicle?
Yes, she was.
Did you put those on?
No, my partner, Deputy Wright, did.
And did you actually put her into a police car?
Yes, I did.
Was that your own vehicle or another officer's?
That was my own vehicle.
Did she say anything at the time that you put her in the vehicle?
Yes, she did.
What did she say?
Well, she was complaining that her hair was in her face, that the handcuffs were too tight and were hurting her hands, that she was taking codeine for pain. And she became violent, combative, abusive, and tried to kick out the window of my patrol car.
When you say violent, what do you mean?
She was thrashing around in the back seat and trying to kick out the window of my patrol car.
Well, did you see her feet at window level?
Yes, I did.
Did she have shoes on?
Yes, she did.
Did you hear any noises from the window area?
Yes, I did.
What did you hear?
3 or 4 loud thumps as she kicked the window.
Where were you at the time that you heard these as far as the car? In or out?
I was inside.
Inside?
Yes,
Whereabouts in your car were you?
I was seated in the driver's seat.
Did she say anything while she was kicking the window?
She was cussing, yelling. I don't recall what she said.
But she was cussing, you say?
Yes.
Did you say anything at that time?
I told her if she didn't stop trying to kick the window, I would tie her feet together so she couldn't kick the windows anymore.
Did she make any response to that?
No.
Okay, this is more warm-up. This will be at 210 words per minute. We have Mr. Judici for the people and Mr. LaForce for defense. I am plaintiff attorney, Mr. Judici.
I am the witness.
I am attorney for defense, Mr. LaForce.
I am the court.
Mr.
LaForce.
LaForce questioning for the record. Now, officer, all you did was see it coming down the street, is that right? You didn't see it pull out of any parking lot, did you?
No,
The parking lot entry is off of Sherwood, I thought.
there is an entry there. Along there is no fence or anything. It's just sidewalk, and then there is a parking lot.
The vehicle, when you saw it, it was traveling in a westerly direction on Rumble,
Correct.
and you had no further description of the defendants other than they were 2 white males, is that right?
At that time, yes.
What I want to know is what made the distinction in your mind between detaining them and arresting them when you did?
Because
Let me rephrase that. What factors in your mind caused you to arrest them as opposed to just detaining them?
number 1, the fact that a burglary was in progress. Number 2 was the fact that I arrived at the scene within 1 to 2 minutes when the burglary was in progress. The time of the morning, 4:10 in the morning. The description, though it may not have been a very good description, was of 2 white males. The fact that the vehicle, when I saw it, it was in the area of where the burglary occurred. The fact that when I did stop them, there were 2 speakers in the back seat. There were also speakers in the car hooked up. There were also tools on the floorboard. All of these factors I took into consideration, and then they were placed under arrest when a vehicle was found to be burglarized in that lot.
What factors, at what point did you decide to arrest them from just merely detaining them? That is what I'm after.
I'm not sure if the combination of factors as I explained to you, that's what,
Let's go through them. The fact that it was 4 in the morning, would you have arrested them because they were driving down the street at 4 o'clock in the morning?
It's a combination of factors. You can't isolate them. I didn't isolate them.
I'm asking you to isolate them. You can't isolate them?
Perhaps Mr. LaForce, at what point did you place them under arrest?
The point I placed them under arrest was when I saw the evidence in there. The fact that they were in the immediate area at that time of the morning, the fact that there had been a burglary in progress.
You're cataloging again. At what point did you place them under arrest? What had happened directly previous to that?
When I saw the evidence of the burglary, what I thought was evidence of the burglary and the tools.
Was that before or after you found out about Mr. Payne's car?
Excuse me, I found out that Mr. Payne's car was burglarized and then they were placed under arrest.
All right.
When you were in the parking lot, Mr. Payne told you those were not his speakers. Why didn't you release the defendants?
I still had to contact the person who recorded the burglary.
After you talked to her, why didn't you release them then?
Because they fit the description.
How long had they been in your custody before the time you went up to contact the lady?
Maybe 15 minutes.
From the time you stopped them until these other officers arrived, until this other officer came back to you and told you that a car in the parking lot had apparently been burglarized, and then you took them over to your car, locked up the other car, and drove to the other parking lot. It had only been 15 minutes.
That's what I would estimate.
Then you detained them another 15 minutes while you were up talking to the lady.
Correct.
Then they were actually more than detained because you had placed them under arrest.
That's correct.
Now, after Mr. Payne had found this piece of coat hanger, he then walked out of the parking lot and back over to the Regal vehicle. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Did you unlock it?
Yes, I did.
Did you have his keys?
Yes, I did.
Then when you unlocked it, you went in and retrieved their coat hanger.
That's correct.
And I assume at that time, did you retrieve the tools too?
Yes.
Okay, I don't have anything further of this officer.
I have a couple of redirect, Your Honor. Officer Holmes, did you place them under arrest as opposed to being detained before or after you talked to the reporting party, Mrs. Fox?
They were placed under arrest before I talked to her.
Had they been placed under arrest before or after the officers told you that there were 2 speaker holes in the door of the Payne car?
They were arrested after that.
I have no further questions.
But after they were arrested, you drove them over to the parking lot and then you spoke with Mr. Payne. And he told you that there had been no speakers stolen from his car. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And you continued to keep them in the back of the patrol car under arrest.
Other items have been taken from his car.
Yeah, but you didn't see any of them
No, I didn't.
in the Regal car.
That's correct.
But you continued to keep them under arrest.
Correct.
Then you went upstairs to the apartment of this witness that you were told about. And you were there about 15 minutes.
I think we've got all that down now, Mr. LaForce.
I don't have anything further.
When did Mr. Payne tell you that the equalizer had been taken from his car?
He stated that he locked the vehicle on the night of March 22nd.
Did he tell you when the equalizer had been taken?
Sometime after 8 that night, March
All right.
22nd.
I'm sorry. All right. Any further questions?
Yes, sir. When you talked to Mrs. Fox, the reporting party, can you tell us whether you had any conversation with her about a coat hanger?
Yes, I did.
What did she say?
I object to that as hearsay.
Well, did you include in your report any information regarding your conversations with Mrs. Fox?
I probably did.
Did you have your report with you?
Yes, I do. Do you want me to check it?
Please.
Yes, there is a reference to it in here.
Your Honor, I would like to have the report marked number 3 for identification.
3 for identification.
Is there any reference to a coat hanger during your conversation with Mrs. Fox?
Yes, there is.
Please read from your report the portion where it refers to the coat hanger.
Reporting witness stated that when she looked out of the window and noticed the 2 men at the car, they had something in their hands, what appeared to be possibly a coat hanger.
Objection. The statement appeared to be.
It goes for holding them under arrest.
Be received for probable cause.
That's all I'm asking for.
Probable cause for what? He's already asked them.
The question was, did you continue holding them after you had the information from the officers and while you went and talked to Mrs. Fox?
You're asking what he did after you talked to Mrs. Fox. Objection will be sustained.
I have no further questions.
No questions, Your Honor.
All right, you may step down. Our court reporter needs a break. We will take a 10-minute recess.
This is more practice. This will be from our 15-minute 200. We have Mr. Alvarado for the people and Mr. Mullen for defense. I am people attorney, Mr. Alvarado.
I am the witness.
I'm attorney for defense, Mr. Mullen.
And
I am the court.
begins with a question by Mr. Alvarado for the record. What was the basis at that time for contacting the passenger?
To identify him,
In that contact, what did the passenger say?
I obtained verbal identification from him, and he also advised me that he was on probation.
Okay, now who did he say he was?
He advised me that his name was David Donald Silva.
David Donald Silva?
Yes,
Did he say he was on probation or searchable probation?
I don't recall which one it was. I know it was confirmed that he was on searchable.
After he said either searchable probation or probation, what did you do next?
I went back to my patrol car. I had radio contact with the registered owner to determine if the vehicle was stolen, and I also did a records and warrants check on both the driver and the passenger.
At this time when you were doing the records check and warrants check, you still had not searched the vehicle, is that correct?
That's correct.
What information came back?
On the warrants and records check, it came back showing both subjects were on searchable probation. That subject, Silva, had an outstanding felony. 10851.
And after you learned this information, what did you do next?
I requested another unit to come by to assist in the transportation.
And it was after you received this information that you then searched the area?
It was after Mr. Silva was taken into custody that the vehicle was searched.
So he was eventually arrested?
Yes,
And what was the basis of Mr. Silva's arrest?
the warrant.
10851 warrant.
That's a 10851, yes.
No further questions.
Mr. Mollencross.
My understanding is that you arrested Mr. Silva for stealing a car, is that right?
For the warrant, yes.
And you got that warrant information by communications from your dispatch?
From radio, yes.
Did that go over the air as an oral radio transmission, or is there a printout machine in your car?
No printout. It comes over the radio.
And how was the information transmitted to you that Mr. Silva was on probation?
The person on the other end just advises you whether they're on probation and what their status is.
Did they in fact advise you?
Yes, they did.
What did they say?
They said the subject was on searchable probation. They give the year that it expires.
I'm sorry,
They give the year probation expires.
did you confirm whether or not that was in fact true, that he was on searchable probation?
That was a confirmation enough for me.
Did you store the car that night?
No, I don't believe it was stored.
Do you know whether anybody stored the car?
I don't believe so.
Do you know what happened to the car?
It was locked there and left, I believe. I don't recall, though. I don't believe anybody else stored it, though.
You never did receive information that the car was in fact stolen, did you?
I object again at this point, Your Honor.